Hello, my name is Rusty Bradshaw, and I am a retired journalist after a 42-year career. I'm also an author, and I have been tasked to do this interview with a number of questions that were submitted to me, and just to get to know a little bit about me and my writing and some other specific things. And I'll start off with question one, and it is, what projects do you want to write in the near future? And I have some ideas going through my head as I'm finishing up my sixth book. Nothing definitive yet, but I do have one project that's done, and it is a story based on a twice canceled television show called Timeless. It's a show about time travelers who go back and fix history, or try to fix history. They're not always successful, but they keep it on a good track. And when the show was finally canceled the second time, I felt there was just more to it. Plus, I really enjoyed the story, so I wanted to continue it. One publisher that I approached with it did not want to do it because the show was copyrighted, and suggested I get permission to do so. And I've written 3 letters to the creator of the show and gotten no response. But it's ready to go. That's one that I'd like to get published. I really enjoyed writing it, enjoyed the show. So hopefully in the future you'll be able to see my story about Timeless. There are some other stories I'd like to do in the vein of my last 3 books. 4 actually, now that I've gotten the 6th one ready to send to publisher. And they're mystery thriller types, and I'd like to keep going on that vein a little bit. So who knows what I might come up with. Question 2 is, have you ever wanted to sell anything you have written to Hollywood for a movie or television adaptation? Well, I imagine there are a lot of writers out there who would like to. There are some pitfalls to that. The obvious advantages are you'd get paid, and you'd get a wider exposure. And if the movie or television show goes well, then your book sales will go well. That's the advantages. Pitfalls are you don't really get to keep control of your piece. They want to make changes. They want to change the story. I'm not real fond of that. I'd like, if any of my works went to movie or TV, I'd like it to follow my storyline as closely as possible. I've been reading Lee Child's Jack Reacher novels, and the Prime has done 2 miniseries on 2 of his books, Bad Luck and Trouble and Killing Floor. And since I read those books before the miniseries came out, I can see that they followed his story almost exactly. Sure, there were some minor changes here and there, but pretty much exactly. And that's what you can do with a miniseries, I suppose. So that's one thing I would like. Now, I will tell you that I have been approached by any number of outfits who say, yeah, we'd like to market your book to Hollywood for possible movie or television. The problem is, when my first thought on that is, this is maybe not too above board. So I like to check. And the first answer I ask is, how much will this cost me? And everything that I've read tells me that if they're going to charge you a whole lot for that, then be leery. So I have been. And most of the time when I ask that question, how much will it cost me, either I get no response or they want to get me on the phone. And I had one outfit that called me about a radio interview with a national personality, supposedly, and went through all of this spiel. I was on the phone for about 45 minutes with this person while I was waiting to have my tires changed on my truck. And throughout that whole time, until the very end, he kept saying, and this is going to be at no cost to you, no cost to you. Well, what I found out at the end is doing the actual interview wouldn't cost me anything, but to get it on air was going to cost me $10,000. Well, my budget's not geared for that. And that's about the range that I hear from people who do respond to me with a cost estimate when I ask what's the cost. My budget's not set up for that. I'm just a guy. I'm just a regular guy out here. I'm retired. I'm on Social Security. I do these books on the side, sell a little bit at the farmer's market in Sun City, little bit online. I've got my own website, www.rustythewriter.org, where you can order the books. But I'm not Lee Child. I'm not Craig Johnson even. I don't have the budget to do book tours and have people do a search, a submission for movies and TV. If somebody really wants to do that and they've read the book, contact me, we'll talk. But I'm not going to pay somebody $10,000 on something that may or may not happen. Question number 4. What was it like working as a journalist, and what was the most dramatic real-life event you covered? Working as a journalist, all of my experience as a journalist was at small community papers that had a very local focus. And I enjoyed that. I liked that format. One of the things that I really enjoyed as a journalist was working with the readers, the sources, the people in the communities. That was a real joy to me. And to be honest, I missed that. But there are so many other things that go along with it, especially nowadays when media companies are wanting to be so many different things. They want to have their print product, they want to have their internet product. Some of them want to go into making videos. It's just, I believe it's just trying to do more than you really can do. And I was getting a little frustrated toward the end of my career with that kind of path, and I was noticing that the company that I last worked for was moving away from the hyper-local philosophy and being a little more regional, which I wasn't comfortable with. And the second part of that question is, what was the most dramatic real-life event you covered? I don't know if I could pick just one. There have been a number of very newsy type things that I've covered that fit that bill. Some murders, if you can believe that, in small communities. One I'll share a story with you. When I was working in a paper in Milton Freewater, Oregon, when you come down into the town, you're coming down a steep hill. And in the wintertime, a lot of times it got very foggy down in that little dip that the town is located in. Well, I was sitting at a Kiwanis meeting in town, and someone interrupted the meeting and said, "Hey, did you hear about the bad accident up on the hill?" So I left the meeting, had my camera with me. I got up there. It was blocked off, so I went down a side road that I knew, and got up near the scene. Well, it was a very, very bad accident, and there was a car in the middle of multiple vehicles that had crashed, and it was quite mushed. Off to the side, there was a car carrying semi, and when it stopped, cars from the top deck started falling off. This car that took the brunt of everything still had the couple inside while I was photographing. I didn't know it at the time, but when I got details later, they were still inside. I saw nothing, but that was a very traumatic situation. Other real life experiences were when I was a sports editor, and I covered a lot of sporting events. Covered a couple of championship games, softball, football, championship basketball tournaments. Those were fun. Question number 5. How does being a journalist and an author differ, both pros and cons? Well, as a journalist, my philosophy has always been that I gather all the information that I can and present it to the readers in the best way possible, without any bias, without any leaning one way or the other, and let them decide. I want to give them the facts and let them make their own interpretation. Now, being an author, since I write fiction, that's a little different, because everything that is on the pages in my books is coming right from here, right out of my mind. Now, I do some research, especially when I'm writing in a specific area. So a lot of things that I research are actual facts, but the story itself is all from up here. It's not gathering facts and figures and presenting it in the way that I did as a journalist. Question number 6, final question. Is there a story that happened before your journalism career or after that you wished you covered? What is it and why? I don't know if I have an answer for that question. Certainly, as a sports editor, it would have been a lot more fun to have covered a state championship high school football game. I covered numerous playoff games, but never a state championship game in which the team I was covering won. I covered one game in which the team I was covering lost. News-wise, I got into journalism as a sports writer, and that's what I really enjoyed most. I really was not into the news part of it, although every community newspaper I worked at as a sports editor, there was some news coverage involved. I wasn't the main news writer, but I had a few little assignments and beats. So I don't know that there's really a story that happened before or after I was a journalist that I wished I'd covered. I was pretty satisfied with my career, even after it became more of a newsy rather than a sports reporter kind of situation. Journalism was fun for me, mostly, as I said before, because I enjoyed working with the readers and the sources that I dealt with. So I've got to say I'm pretty happy with it. And that's the end of this set of questions for this interview. If you want to know a little bit more about me, visit my website, www.rustythewriter.org, and be sure and check out the storylines of my 5 books that are already published. They are The Rehabilitation of Miss Little, Moist on the Mountain, Gorge Justice, Battle for Stephanie, and Death in Hazard. And after the first of the year, I'll be submitting my next book for publication, and the title of that book is Fatal Reunion. So watch for that one. Thank you very much for watching.